Alrighty, let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan Ellsworth here at coatingscoffeeshop.com. I'm really excited. Excuse me. I'm really excited because today we're talking about finding certainty in these times of continued uncertainty. And I'm here with the professionals, Todd Farr from Everroof and Will Lorenz from General Coatings. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Hi, Megan.
Hello, Megan. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited to hear your wise words. Let's just dive right in. Letting everyone know the chat is open. So if you have questions throughout today's presentation, please throw them in the chat and we will get to them as soon as we can. Um, Will, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your company?
Well, thank you. My name is Will Lorenz. I'm president of General Coatings. We're a manufacturer of spray foam systems, both roofing systems and insulation systems, and we have a brand with our restoration brand of Everroof. Been involved in this industry for decades. Started off in the core polyurethane industry, and then got involved with roofing, and have been in that space for quite a while. Involved with SPFA, Spray Foam Coalition, Roof Coating Manufacturers Association, NRCA, a long list of great organizations that we've tried to contribute to. I live in Southern California, enjoying the beautiful weather, and happy to talk about roofing systems.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. Todd, who the heck are you?
That's a great question. Thank you, Megan. Well, I serve as the national sales manager for the Everroof division under Will and enjoy doing that. I've been with Everroof for a few years now. Previous to that, I was with a law firm for about 5.5 years, specializing in insurance restoration claims on the roofing side. So I know that side of the business very well also. And then previous to that, I was on the contractor side, both residential and commercial. So kind of been around the industry for a bit and happy to talk about fluid applied restoration today.
Absolutely. It's so important now more than ever, I think. Um, so let's get into that. Will, let's have you start us off. What is uncertainty and what does that lead to in markets, economies? What are you seeing right now?
Well, I would say that, I think all of us have looked back in the first quarter and said, wow, what a crazy first quarter. If you were
Yeah.
looking at your 401k, you saw it go up and down and all around. And but probably today you've seen that it's gotten back to pretty close to where it was. So, the good news is while we've had a lot of volatility, a lot of noise, progress is still headed there. The US economy is still the strongest in the world. And there's a lot of optimism that things are going to be getting better in the United States as opportunities for roofing and also for construction. But I would say that we're not completely out of the woods as a whole. What you've got is still predicting things for a period of times, whether it's 30 days or 90 days, because these macro issues such as tariffs and interest rates, these aren't really all yet favorable to the construction trade. Interest rates are still high. I think they're causing issues with regard to new construction and residential re-roofing, and tariffs are still sort of they've been paused while they're negotiating things. Hopefully they get good negotiations that are good for our country, but also favorable for the construction trade and for the roofing trade, so that we can continue to bring
Yeah.
products in and serve the marketplace. But I would also say there's sort of the macro, and then there's the levels that are below that, where there's a number of different roof systems that people offer, and each one of those has their own kind of supply and demand economics. And so, keep in mind that the bigger issues have an effect on the market, but also just what's the supply and demand of whether it's this roofing system or that roofing system can kind of play in a role, whether or not you're going to see, changes in availability or changes in availability relative to price. And that uncertainty as a whole, as we started the first year, uh, let people think that perhaps, the economy was going to be slowing down, and then perhaps roofing wasn't going to
Yeah.
prosper. And I think we're seeing good signs there that interest rates may come down. Inflation seems to be coming down. So those kind of macro pictures give us, a lot of optimism that roofing is going to be bright for this year.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm glad to hear that positive outlook, especially after, like you said, Q1 was a little tumultuous, but overall, not too bad. Todd, anything to add on this uncertainty that we're all kind of seeing?
Absolutely. I think Will hit the nail on the head. One thing I was
Yeah,
thinking about was back during COVID, when there was a shortage of, certain roofing materials, membranes and whatnot, and there was actually an uptick in fluid applied restoration during that time frame. So, sometimes, look for all of your options during times of uncertainty, for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Um, so Will, how does economic uncertainty affect decision making in the roofing industry specifically?
It can have an effect. Obviously, if tariffs come into play, manufacturers, if they're getting product from overseas, are going to try and stock up, beat the tariffs, so to speak, or they're going to try and source things domestically. But pivoting to domestic supply many times will be challenging. But many
Yeah,
parts of our roofing sectors have domestic supply as a stronghold. There's a lot of products that are, whether it's concrete or asphaltic materials that are, primarily sourced here in the United States. So, there should be more certainty and availability of supply related to that. And then the other thing is, everybody looks at what they're going to do with their investment. Are we going to put more money into marketing? Are we going to put more money into R&D? Are we going to put more money into plant upgrades or expansions? And when you can't predict demand, then sometimes you hold that money while you see how things go. And so many times manufacturers who are looking to bring out improvements or efficiencies will keep cash on hand rather than invest. And so that kind of scales all the way down from to contractors to customers. If there is some uncertain, people tend to pause a little bit. And so if they have confidence about where it's at, or they have predictability or forecasting that shows positiveness and growth, then people are more willing to take risk and invest. And I think it's the same for contractors who will look at it and go, hey, if we think that there's more roofs that are necessary that we can go get, we'll bring on extra crews, or we'll invest in a new system to gain more efficiency and bankroll ourselves to greater success. So that's what the effects of the macro levels. And then if you had things like interest rates come down, then you've got demand kind of coming along with customers
yeah,
saying, I need this product, I need this roof system, and then you see market growth. But so much of our marketplace is what I would call programmed institutional kind of business. And the good news about that is that that money probably was allocated last year. So there's a lot of certainty in schools and institutional business that's going to play out throughout the year. That's give us a lot of security, so that perhaps the uncertainty is not as high as we think it could be. But if we can get the interest rates down, then residential market for those products and roofing I think, will take off dramatically, because there's a pent up demand to get roofs done and fixed. It just people don't want to pay the higher costs of interest rates.
yeah, yeah. And kind of random follow-up question to that, are you hearing anything about data centers? I know you talked about schools and kind of some of that institutional re-roofing projects, things like that. What are you hearing about data centers right now?
Well, I think with the investment in the chip industry,
Yeah,
we're going to see more domestic manufacturing of things related to AI or related to those industries that can, provide efficiencies, and they're going to need buildings, and they're going to need, upgrades on their roofs. So I see that as certainly a long-term plan. I think they're going to have to build the buildings first to get the roofs on. So, maybe there's something that's going to see in this year or in the next 2 or 3 more years as they build those buildings. But,
yeah,
I'm not hearing that data centers, if you will, are, popping up right away, but I think they're
yeah,
all coming. So,
yeah. That is a very good point. They have to be built first before the roof can go on.
And in some markets, they could be, converting current office buildings into data centers. That can possibly
Okay.
in certain markets, and that's a great thing. That opens the door for restoration on those properties, which we'd love to be a partner with.
So one of the
Yeah,
things,
absolutely.
one of the things that I was listening today was on, I think it's CRE, was talking about commercial real estate, and they were talking about in 24, for instance, there was a lot of of bankruptcies that occurred, and there were a lot of vacancies that occurred in a lot of different kinds of buildings, and the combination of tariffs, interest rates, and a lack of having tenants has slowed down some of the roofing rents that they could get, or the what I would say the building rents they could get, and the rates of which people would occupy the buildings are down, and so that then translates to
Interesting.
how much people are going to spend on roofing to maintain those buildings. So, hopefully with insurance, with interest rates coming down, things like that, we can see more occupancy of those buildings, and then they're going to have to, get good quality roofs on there. So we'll see, increased demand for roofing systems.
Great point. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great point. And this totally segues into our next topic really well. So, Todd, I'd love to know what are some factors, what factors make contractors that work with roof coatings uniquely positioned to provide options to their customers that are a little more flexible? And how does
Sure.
that kind of go into what we just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely, Megan. So I believe that when you're working with a building owner, he wants to see options, and you should, as a contractor, you should be able to show him all the options out there. You come in at the very top and say, here's a full tear off. And then you come in, you say, here's a layover, it's priced right here. And then you come way down here, and you say, here's a fluid applied roof restoration coating system. So they kind of get the three tiers of, what their options are. And 9 times out of 10, if the roof is a candidate, a lot of times that third option, as far as being the fluid applied restoration system, is going to seem the most attractive to the building owner, long term.
Yeah.
10, 15, 20-year options. So I think as a contractor, if you're flexible and you can offer all three options, that's going to allow you to, help more building owners capture more work and just position you very well in the marketplace.
Yeah. And it's like you said in 2020, roof restoration went up. You never know when something like that you're not expecting will rise in popularity. So having a wide breadth of things you can offer clients is important.
Sure, absolutely. And fluid applied roof restoration can be applied to many roof substrate, types. It's not just one type. You've got
Right.
single ply systems, your TPO, your PVC, your EPDM. You have your built up systems, mod bid cap sheet. You have
Oh,
concrete roofs, metal roofs. So there's a wide array of substrates that can use fluid applied restoration.
yeah. That's huge. That's so huge. Okay. So what are some of those options contractors can be prepared to offer their customers as they're making these decisions, about adding this to their business?
Yeah, absolutely. On the restoration side, we have basically three service offerings. We offer an acrylic option, we have a silicone option, and then we have a urethane option. So we like to say
Okay.
good, better, best. We
Hmm.
see a lot of acrylics go on in certain markets in Arizona, where it's very dry and hot, also in the California market. We see acrylics used a lot in the South and Midwest on metal roofs. And then silicone, we're kind of seeing that as a universal fit kind of across the whole country with its waterproofing characteristics and so forth. Urethane is also good if you're working with a client that kind of demands a little bit more like top tier protection for their roof, is as far as if they have a lot of contractors walking on the roof on the HVAC systems. We see that with a lot of hospital applications and so forth. So kind of three options there for you. Also on the maintenance side of things, we always suggest a good maintenance program, and for contractors to offer that to their clients. That puts them on the roof, several times a year, gives them another revenue source, and also really helps out these long-term material and labor and material warranties just by keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, that's
And
huge.
the third thing is accurately assessing the building condition, before you offer the option. Some roofs, it may not be an option for fluid applied restoration. There may be too much moisture in the substrate. But if it is a good candidate, we like to say, go ahead and offer it, because 9 times out of 10, that's what your building owner is going to go for.
Yeah. And another good point too is that if you're just adding this to your repertoire of options for your company, for your business, if that roof isn't a candidate for a fluid applied system, you have other things to prepare and show. It's not just a loss. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the building owner just needs to be taken care of. And we realize that not every roof is a candidate. So, however you can help that building owner out, great. It's all about their roof.
Yeah, totally. It really is. So let's dive into kind of more of these benefits of how offering options like this to customers can really add value to a contractor's business.
Sure, you bet. So I would say one of the number one benefits is the time efficiency. Applying these
Yeah,
doesn't take as much time as a layover or a tear off. So you're using less labor, less time. You're not taking trips to the dump, so that saves in time as well. So time efficiency is huge, as well as just the cost of goods. It's lower. Generally, contractors like their margins with this option, even though it's the lowest cost, for the building owner. So that's a great benefit as well. A lot of the contractors will develop a reputation as a straight shooter too, because if they're offering that option, building owners really appreciate it. Hey, you're saving me time, you're saving me money. I appreciate you offering this option to us. A lot of guys just come in here and say, hey, we're gonna do a layover, we're gonna do a tear off, when that may not be the best option, for the building owner. So
And I would also add, Todd, I think it's a lower risk in many cases. If you open up a building and do a tear off, you're more subject to the weather conditions, and, a coating system on top of it, keeps the building intact, and the roof system already in place, if it's a good candidate, and that prevents, additional damage potential, due to weather.
great point. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, truly. So along with all of the benefits come some risks. What would you say are some risks, Will or Todd, that come with adding some of this to your business?
Sure, sure, you bet. Will just mentioned the risk of the weather, so it can be it can be a plus or a minus. It's a plus like to where you don't have to tear the entire roof off. That's great. It can be a risk also just by the type of weather that's coming along on the day of your production. If all
Yeah,
rain shower pops up or something to that extent. So that's how weather can come into play. So it's very important to monitor the weather, pay attention to the forecast, accurately record what the weather was that day. That can come into play during warranty situations, also. Um, Also the risk, of just not doing anything to the property. So
yeah.
kicking the can down the road. So um, I've been in shopping centers where you can literally see water coming down over the cash register. So that's like, come on, let's do something
Oh
here.
my God. Yeah.
It can really upset your tenants, if you're own a retail establishment. So I would say
Yeah.
failure to do any work at all is definitely a risk. And then failure to present the cost-effective fluid applied restoration option. If you
Yeah.
say, hey, here's a layover, here's a tear off, but you fail to present that option, maybe you don't have experience in that option, and you just don't know a lot about it. I always like to say, always partner with a great manufacturer who's got your back. We'll come out there, we'll assess the roof with you, look at it, and help in any way that we can. Kind of be your trusted value partner, and help be your expertise in the fluid applied restoration space.
Yeah.
Well said, Todd. Well said. I agree.
I agree too. I have a follow-up question. So I guess this isn't really a risk, but maybe something to just be aware of. When explaining a coating system to a building owner, a customer, um, how how do you explain that it can extend the life of the roof? And how do you help contractors explain that basically to building owners?
Sure, absolutely. Well, it turns it into a monolithic roof system, and it can extend the life of the roof 10, 15, or 20 years, depending on how much material you put on there, how many mils, how much thickness of materials. And we measure that with a roof gauge. It's a very simple device that we use to measure it. And in the prescription of the roof, it's kind of laid out how many gallons per square of each product that they'll need. We also have substrate, basically explanation sheets that will visually show them, how many layers of what product to put down, and
Okay.
everything as far as that goes. Also, we like to be on the roof, before, during, and the application, if we can, in the field. We're not opposed to that. So we're happy to be
Yeah,
that trusted value partner.
that's awesome. That's huge.
I'd also add, Todd, I think that sometimes the design community looks at coating systems as a temporary solution, and our
Right.
industry, whether it's manufacturer A or B or Z, has done a great job of showing coatings as being a durable solution, and that many of us all have credentials such as Miami-Dade. We have fire classifications with UL. We have approvals with research reports that show that these things have been tested and that they perform to the highest levels and meet the standards in the industry, and just the proven history. When we've seen companies like Everroof offering 10 and 20-year warranties, what we're seeing is those roofs are performing and they're successful, and customers are happy with the fact that they chose that restoration option. And it's still performing. It's a waterproof system. It's applied out in the field rather than let's say a rolled product, but it's also customized and detailed for the building, and the contractor with their great skill level ensures its success. And so having a partner like Everroof making sure that the materials are the right selection and the specification works goes hand in hand with a great contractor who does the detail work, does the surface prep, and finishing up so that it's going to be a performing system. And we always like to have our roofs for labor and material warranties third-party inspected with professional roof inspectors, people that are IBEC certified, roof observers, things like that. So we can stand behind that the roof practice is done really well, and that the materials selected we're also going to perform. So there's a peace of mind for the customer there.
Yeah.
Great point. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's not just a Band-Aid. This is a real an in-depth system that's completely protecting the building. That's such a good point, Will. I would love to know, just really quick, another question here. How do you start the conversation with a building owner who's hesitant to spend right now, and kind of tell them like this is a great option because of these times of uncertainty?
Sure. I think, one of the important things for the contractor when you're doing your kind of assessment and fact finding is just have that honest conversation with the
Yeah.
building owner and find out, A, what are their goals with the property? Is it a long-term hold, or are they going to be selling it? Do they have a CapEx budget, that they have to spend this year in order to get more funds next year? That's a very important component. are there any roof leaks? Are they
Yeah.
interested in a maintenance program? And kind of like, what's their appetite, for a full restoration system this year? Just try to get all that information up front so you kind of know what you're dealing with. And then you can kind of offer the solution, that caters, to what they actually need that year. Maybe, maybe they say, no, this year, we just want some band-aids. We just want some repairs, and we're going to have a not to exceed budget of, $4,000 a month on that or something, whatever that, find that out. Do you have a not to exceed repair budget, in your fact finding, and then maybe present them with three options so they see everything, so they see, okay, here's your maintenance program, here's your fluid applied restoration system for the entire roof, here's your layover system, and here's your tear off system. So they have all the options. So maybe
Yeah.
they're not ready right now, but maybe at the end of the year, the board comes to them, or if you're dealing with a property manager, maybe the ownership comes and says, hey, what are my options? You've already got all those options laid out because you've done the groundwork, and a lot of times, it's important for contractors to also put on there, hey, this bid is only good for 60 days. After that, it could be subject to material or labor increase. That's always
Yeah.
on there too. But it gives your clients a good guideline when you're honest with them. You have an honest conversation, and then you give them a ton of options. They may not pull the trigger right now, but you're going to be the contractor that they ask back when they are ready because you've given them the most information.
Yeah.
So true. I'd also say that, Todd, you brought up maintenance programs, and I think most roofing contractors have long-term relationships with a number of building owners and a number of property management people. And so, at least in the commercial space, they have that, that trusted partner condition in place. And so it's about staying in touch with them as their buildings age, or they have, mechanical damage, or they have concerns about, weather and damage that might occur there. It's about being that person that they can trust to get a real answer as to what they should do next. And then you can offer what, I think is Todd saying, that great due diligence about where their roof is at, where their budgets are at, and then marry that together as a trusted partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this is great conversation. Thank you both. Okay, let's keep going. So next, let's talk about some other ways. If I can find my mouse, there we go. Other ways to weather the uncertainty that people are seeing right now. What are you recommending?
Well, I would first jump in and say, you've got current work that you've got going on. And so, it's about making sure that your partner or distributor has the materials that you need to do those systems, whether it's roofing, coating systems or not, making sure that you have that ability to say to your building owner, or your property manager, look, we can do this in the time frame that you're looking for, and we can meet the budget goals, and we can get this done before, the weather comes, or whatever those parameters that might affect things. And so that's the first thing, is try and provide certainty to your customer, because you've done your homework about how to manage the business. And then, as Todd said, you're understanding what their needs are, and then you're flexing as to what they require. If again it's just a tight year and maintenance is all they've got in the plan, then offer them the great maintenance program that's going to view you as the person that should be taking care of their roofs long term, whether it's a new roof or keep extending the roof, or restoring the roof. And then, in times of uncertainty, I always think cash on hand. You should be wise about your investments that you make, so that you have the ability, if you see this large project coming up, that you can, pre-buy some of that material, so that you have your certainty about what your bid price will be, and what you can install it at. Or,
Yeah.
decide that you're doing better than expected, and make those investments into new equipment so you can gain more efficiencies, or you invest in your training program so you can do a better job and have your customers more satisfied because, you're doing the detail work to the level that, you think is necessary to show the brand that you have. And then you pivot from being sort of afraid of the marketplace to moving aggressively forward and showing that, you believe that you're the right choice for that roof and you're the right choice for them as a solution today.
Yeah. Todd, follow-up question. Would you say that adding something like this, a fluid applied system to your repertoire, being able to apply coatings to your business, is that something contractors should do now to prepare for when the market rebounds? So it's both economical now and then they have this extra offering later on.
Yeah, it's actually yesterday. They should have done it yesterday. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, yeah. When should they do it? Yesterday.
I
But
love it.
but no, definitely they should, I just think it's important to offer your building owner all three solutions and to be as versatile as possible. Yes, you do specialize, but there's sub crews out there. There's all types of crews. Even if your crew isn't specialized in it, there's definitely some resources out there. But I believe that you should, as a commercial roofing contractor, you should always offer all solutions and be versed in all solutions.
Yeah.
Just give your building owner the most options, and to help him in whichever manner that he needs assistance.
Yeah. What advice would you two give contractors out there listening to this that are looking to make the investment in training, education, but are wary to do it right now because of, uncertainty?
Sure. You bet. I think there's some good resources out there through NRCA and Roofing Alliance, as far as some good general education, on the roofing industry and fluid applied scenarios. You can also reach out to your manufacturer, reach out to me, reach out to Will. We're happy to help you out, and happy to, guide you through the process and make sure that you get all the resources that you need to produce the best product that's possible.
Wonderful. I agree. And I also think you want to, fit the program as to what you do as a contractor. If you're a person
Mhm.
that's high productivity, then you're going to have to invest in the equipment to put down the coating systems at the productivity level that you're used to. So,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to start off with a business that is going to be rolling it out there. You're going to be looking at spray equipment. You're going to be looking at things that you can do, whether it's using tapes or three coursing or urethanes, things to seal up roofs, things like that around penetrations. So, you want to gear towards what your culture is and what type of labor force you have, because I think it's a pretty standard way to improve into getting into coatings. I don't think it's that far from where everybody does their current roofing systems. You're going to have to do the details right around irregular penetrations, and you're going to have to surface prep, and you're going to have to prepare the materials and get it on the roof. And it's similar to many roof systems in that regard. It's not that complicated. And I don't think one should be afraid of it. I think great resources are available to help them, and individuals and companies in tech service are there to get out and train people and get them comfortable with their products and systems.
Totally. Absolutely. And that just takes us into how to start offering these coding options. What role does manufacturer support play in helping contractors build trust, adding these options? We've touched on it a little bit, but let's dive in a little bit more.
Sure, you bet. I think it's extremely important to, find a domestic manufacturer partner. Uh, Megan, we've got two plants in Texas and Arlington and Bedford, and we have two plants in LA and one in
Awesome.
Fresno. So we're kind of have some different plants in areas of the country, and we can help, all over the place. So I think it's very important to find a domestic manufacturer, that's kind of shielded against certain tariffs and whatnot.
And then I
Yeah.
would add, Todd, you also want people who have boots in the ground in those areas, whether they're good
Right.
distributors that they work for or work through, or, they've got tech service and sales teams that can help get on roofs, as you mentioned earlier, and help them, get that solution out there and get the roofs evaluated. So, it's having someone who can help support the roofer business by being a partner to the contractor.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. And then what kind of trainings do you recommend for contractors that want to get into coatings? I know you talked about NRCA. Do you all have trainings? Do you know other coatings companies that do trainings, or how does someone get into
Sure.
this?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Megan. Yeah, just reach out to us, and we have certain training options for you. We can set up a customizable training program for you and your team, whatever,
Okay.
based on what part of the country you're in. We'd like to make you not have to travel if we could, for that. So we're happy to come to you and be hands-on in that endeavor. So absolutely.
Corporately for us, we're believing in putting together schools for educating folks with regard to how to be aware of what the products are, but also how to install them, and then how to make sure that they're maintained and the details are done well. So we're happy to be a partner with people on that. We also think that the RCMA, Roof Coating Manufacturers Association, has a very nice 3-module program out there for people to look at if they're
Awesome.
not familiar with coatings at all. It's a good starter place. And then, there are established manuals that have been put together, whether it's by IBEC or NRCA, so that there's written materials there for people to also look for. And then if you go on the Everroof website, you're going to find systems and what's necessary there to do it, as well as details of how to do it. And we also have videos available showing the install, and be able to provide information that they can then feel comfortable that the Everroof line is a great choice for them.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, great points, Will. And that website is just, everroof.com.
Perfect. Love it. Um, I want to take it back kind of to our previous point on getting started. Are there any specific pieces of equipment that would give contractors kind of an edge in the coatings market without breaking the bank? What does the equipment look like?
Well, I think the first question I would say is, what market do you serve? If you're
Hmm.
doing residential flat roofs, then you may be looking at the fact that the best option is a manual installation. You're going to dip and roll and use those kind of systems. So you're looking at more about training your individuals and getting them up to speed as to how to do that distribution of the coating and how to measure the roof appropriately and put down the coating in each of the squares that you want at the thickness levels. If you're a guy who does a lot of large, commercial buildings that are 200,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet, you're probably going to need investment in equipment, and you're probably going to need to look at spray equipment, whether it's acrylic or silicone or urethane. And you're going to want to have a good feed system, and you're going to want to have either a rolling system with some sort of mechanical distribution, or you're just going to spray it. And then, you want a team out there perhaps to back roll it. And then you want a group to also do some of the detail work. So you got your spray group, you got your surface prep group, and then you got your detail group. And, if you get those crews up trained well, then you'll find that you can gain the efficiencies of getting that coating on there, to meet the requirements. We know some people that are putting down, let's say like 10 drums of silicone a day with one crew. And so they've
Wow.
invested in the equipment to pump it up on the roof and get it distributed. And so, that's the type of efficiency that you can get with investment in the right equipment.
Yeah. And you can start small. That's a good reminder too. Start small with the handheld rolling, and dipping that way.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And those are all great points. In, um, some jobs, some guys will do a combination of things, especially if it's, very windy day and there's lots of cars in the parking lot, maybe they'll just be careful just to spray in the center of the building, and then they'll roll all the edges, just to keep that over
Okay.
uh, contained. So that's something to monitor also, or the weather conditions of the actual production day.
Got it. Got it. Okay, I would love to know. We have a question here from the audience. Um, what are some, how can contractors highlight their flexibility and range of services without overwhelming clients with too many options? I know you kind of mentioned the good, better, best system. Um, how would you answer that question?
Just speak as far as general terms, first determine if the roof is even a candidate for
Yeah,
so, is there any moisture in the substrate? Does it appear like there is? Just say, hey, this might be a possible candidate. Further testing is needed. We might need to do an infrared scan, but from the outside in, it looks like a good candidate. And this is what you're usually going to deal with as far as, cost per square foot. That's what the building is in, owner is interested in, cost per square foot. And
yeah,
then I would speak in general terms. So, just give him a range for the cost per square foot for a fluid applied system, and then say, this is your range for cost per square foot of a layover, and this is your cost per square foot of a complete tear off. Just boom, 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 just real simple. And just keep it general. And if they go, well, I like the first one, then what you're dealing with there. So I would just offer them three solutions, keep it
okay,
general terms, whatever the going rates for each of those systems are in your marketplace.
absolutely.
Great point. I'd also add that I think, it's knowledge of what your customer expects. If they're always expecting everything to be under warranty, and the corporate edict is to always have a new roof on there when they replace it or it's worn out, then you're going to have to tailor your options primarily towards that. If they're looking at options that say, look, our budget is limited this year, or we think our roof is in pretty darn good condition, we don't have leaks, but we want to extend it, then the offering the coating solution is right up what they're looking for. They've given you that signal that coatings is something that they're going to trust. And so, present that forward strongly, I would say. If for whatever reason you get up there, as Todd said, and the roof is saturated or there's structural problems, give them the best advice. We're going to have to get this old roof off and put on a new roof system that's going to, be code compliant.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just great. I have another question from the audience. So it says, I'm new to coatings. How can I build credibility quickly, now that I'm trying to land my first few projects?
Absolutely. I would say give us a call, partner with me. We're happy to walk you through some different ideas, that we see working in the marketplace, as far as, attracting building owners and so forth. And then we're also happy to come out and walk a few roofs with you, and
Yeah,
help you assess it, kind of hold your hand through the process, to where you'll finish your first roof and look like a rock star.
love it. Incredible. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to the next topic here, and that is finding more info, going right into what you just said, Todd. So where can everyone out there listening find more support information on getting started?
Sure, you bet. So if you go to everroof.com, that'll kind of give you a good layout of our service offerings. You can also dive into the different substrates, and kind of what those prescriptions look like. We've got some tech links in there as well. We've got some videos, also. So feel free to access our website, everroof.com. You can also reach out to me. I think on the next slide, we'll have my information there. Always happy to
Yes.
be a resource. And then always the different roofing associations. You have NRCA, the Roofing Alliance, the MRCA, and there's a lot of local chapters of these roof associations. So it's great to get involved at a local level. Find your local chapters, go to the lunch and learns. Those can be fantastic resources as well. And always, Coatings Coffee Shop has a catalog of everything.
Yes. Thank you for the shout out. I'm putting the link to our directory on Coatings Coffee Shop in the chat, and I just put the Everroof website in the chat as well. So everyone go check that out. They have a directory on Coatings Coffee Shop and Roofers Coffee Shop, as well as General Coatings on both of those sites. Um, and absolutely, like Will mentioned and Todd mentioned, the RCMA training is so great, and they've worked so hard on it. So definitely go check that out as well if you have more questions on where to go next and what to do next.
I would just add that I think, Todd's got some great videos that are helpful from the sales side on there, some short videos on the benefits of coating systems, whether you're going, a new construction or you're going over metal or you're going over built up. He's got some great videos there that you can then, pass on to your customers as to what the benefits of coating systems are. And I think that's helpful. We've all kind of evolved into a visual world, and everybody's on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, so we want easy digestible content that can show what the benefits are, and we've got a lot of good visual tools there that you can take advantage of and put out to your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one final follow-up question for you two, kind of just to tie it back into our topic of finding opportunity in times of uncertainty. And that is, what's one action contractors can take this week, today, to better prepare for uncertain times?
I think one of our bullet points in one of our slides was, move aggressively forward. So no
Yeah,
matter, no matter what the markets are doing, that's the one thing that you can always control. And in that, what that means moving aggressively forward is always looking for opportunity, always looking for new customers that you can help out, finding out where these buildings are, finding a list of them, sending them a postcard, saying, hey, have you had your roof evaluated lately? Can I be a resource for you? So no matter what you're hearing out there, as long as you're moving aggressively forward, things normally work out.
yeah,
Absolutely. I would also just kind of comment that I think you have a lot of networks that are either the roof consultants that you work with, or associations that you're a part of, or mentors that you've had in the business that can give you good advice. Or in the case of Everroof, there are suppliers that can help you with understanding what's going on there, and help you with local shows, so that you can get out there, get your name and brand in front of you. There's a lot of maintenance shows, a lot of builders expo shows. There's a lot of opportunities that people are still seeking answers, and if you can get out in front of those areas, you can get your name in front of them, that will turn into real leads for you.
yeah.
Absolutely. Always, always have your business card with you too. You never know who you're going to meet, and try not to run out of those, or maybe you have a digital card, but
Smart.
always be willing to hand it out, because your customers eat at restaurants too. So you never know when you're going to run into them.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. It actually looks like we just got a question really quick. I have Todd's info on the screen. Everyone can take write that down in case you want to reach out. Please do. Um, we have a question here. Any final thoughts on how I, a contractor, can build trust when budgets are tight, but expectations are still really high? We kind
Yeah,
of touched on this a little bit, but dive in.
yeah. Great question. Budgets are tight, and how you can provide value. I would say just giving them that honest assessment, and
Yeah,
hey, honestly, this is what we found with your roof, giving them an accurate roof report that's detailed, that's easy to follow, that kind of lays out their options and maybe lays out where the deficiencies are in the roof, and then just gives your prescription, so they can easily understand the lay of the land, what the current condition of their roof, how many years left there are, whether there are options. You provide that roadmap to them, then you're going to be you know, their single source resource as far as the roof goes.
Great
absolutely.
answer. Great answer. I would just offer as a final thought there, Todd, is I think, is go with proven systems, go with systems that have, brands and accreditation that will meet the requirements that the customer is looking for. If you have something that has a UL or an FM credential, or a Miami-Dade credential, you're showing that you're bringing forth quality products, quality systems, and partnering with the right supplier manufacturers who can then, meet their expectations through it. So I think that that's a key there too early on is, build your brand through the brands that you choose to invest in as products that you're going to put on the roof.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you so, so much. Big thank you to Everroof and General Coatings for bringing this to us and presenting. This has been absolutely phenomenal. And I just can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you indeed.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone, please go to coatingscoffeeshop.com to learn more. Todd's info is on the screen. This will be up for you to rewatch and send to all your friends and family if you would like in the next 24 to 48 hours. And you can find all of our other Coatings Talk series there as well under the Read, Listen, Watch navigation. So everyone stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time on the next Coatings Talk.